This workshop is part of Chronicle's broader Advancing Technology and Disability Law series, where we spotlight tools, workflows, and integrations helping disability firms modernize how they work. This is actually the very first time of several sessions that you'll see us putting together these sorts of events in the coming months. So keep an eye out for future collaborations covering new Chronicle features, automation best practices, and other partner collaborations. Just as an FYI for folks, you will receive a full replay of this after today's event. So you don't have to worry about missing anything. It will be recorded for you and uploaded as well on YouTube and whatnot. We'll also be taking questions throughout in the Zoom chat. So I'll be monitoring and feeding those questions to Nikhil and Nick at the end of today during our live discussion. As you are entering the room, if you haven't already, it'd be great to hear from you where you're joining in from. Drop your city, firm name in the chat. As a quick introduction from me, I'm Will. I focus on building education, partnerships, and collaboration that help disability practices adopt new tools and stronger operational standards. So my work mostly centers on bringing together people and technology that are pushing the disability field forward, making sure that firms have clear practical steps to implement what actually works. So before we jump into introductions, let's go over what we're going to learn by the end of this session. By the end of this session, you're going to have a better understanding of how Chronicle and LexMed are working together to improve the appeals process. We're going to see an actual live demo of how to request and review a LexMed brief inside Chronicle. All of you for joining us today. You're also going to be able to do so with your credits, which we'll share more about later on. And you'll get insight into exactly how this AI is going to be able to strengthen your appeals counsel briefs. So this is what we'll cover. And now let's go over a quick round of introductions. Folks may already recognize these two folks in the room, but we are joined today by Nikhil, founder of Chronicle. Chronicle is the platform helping Social Security disability firms automate case tracking, manage ERE status, and streamline hearing prep. He's worked with attorneys and advocates across the country to simplify the complex workflows in the disability space, monitoring over 100,000 cases, as well as 3.7 million SSA documents. We're also joined by Nick Coleman, founder of LexMed, a practicing attorney who has encoded his experience in winning strategies as a successful Social Security disability appellate into AI to help attorneys win ALJ decisions and win more cases. His mission is simple. It's to make high quality appeal prep faster, more accurate, and accessible for every firm. Now that we've got that set of introductions out of the way, I'm going to pass it over to Nikhil to share a little bit more about why Chronicle built this integration. Take it away, Nikhil.
Yeah, great. Well, happy to be here today and kind of been walking you all through our brand new integration and partnership with LexMed. Just for context, Nick and I have been talking about this since the day we both started our company back in 2023. So this is a very long relationship, and we're excited to finally see it come into the product. Just a little bit of context on like why we actually, decided to move forward with this. As you guys know, Chronicle, our bread and butter is all of the evidence in the ERE. We organize it, we manage it for you to make it really easy to see what's going on with all of your cases. But the long-term view always was we have access to this evidence and information so that way we can build efficiencies into your practice. And one of the main ways we wanted to do so was using AI. With thousands of pages per case, AI would be really helpful, especially with the new LLMs to kind of read through that. And so we went down the list and kind of looked at what are the biggest pain points in the evidence review process, SSD process. And we know there's everything from medical chronologies to brief writing to the appeals process to filling out questionnaires. And so as we kind of looked at the list, we were like, what can we tackle and who can we tackle it with? And one of the people we knew we wanted to partner with, as I mentioned from the get-go, from 2 years ago, was Nick, because he's really strong at the appeals process, along with the whole SSD process. But we knew when it came to the AC appeals process, it takes hours per firm. And so building a integration with LexMed and one of their first products, which is the AC appeals audit and brief, would really save firms a lot of time in that process of preparing the appeal after an ALJ denial. So we're excited to bring this new AI feature to the Chronicle platform. It's one of many that we'll be doing with LexMed and other firms. But we kind of see it as a practical innovation in the ways that attorneys work, and ideally cutting down a lot of time in that brief running process. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Nick to share a little bit more about LexMed's approach and kind of what's happening under the hood.
Yeah. So some of you guys have met me before. Uh, like Nikhil said, we've been talking about doing this for several years now. As soon as I heard Nikhil was offering the solution of automating the ERE records and getting those, I reached out to him to talk about what I was trying to build. And so we've kept a tight relationship since then. And since then, I've built out products that I wanted as a young attorney when I was frustrated, when I worked in a high volume firm, when I was having to handle hundreds of cases a year and then expected to draft AC briefs and federal court briefs. And so this has been a passion project of mine. The things that I wanted to do in 2015, the technology just wasn't there, but now it is. And so essentially what I'm doing is ingraining and encoding the winning strategies that I've used in my federal court practice the last 7 years, looking for legal errors that are going to give you the best chance of success at federal court, but also at the appeals council. And so you'll see the way the product's built is it's just the ALJ decision. But what I've found is usually you can find even better arguments there because they're binary issues. It's either black or white. There's no, it's based on legal error as opposed to substantial evidence where you're going to have higher success. And so that's the way that I've built this product. And I've tested it in my own appellate practice, iterating on it, of course, over the last 3 years, but finally released it where I felt comfortable after I had tested it with other appellate attorneys that said, "Hey, Nick, it's good. Here, thumbs up, send it out." And so we released it in August. I kept Nikhil in tune about it, and he wanted to offer it to you guys, and was very excited about integrating with Nikhil and getting feedback from you guys so we can make this product awesome and work for everybody. Thanks for joining today.
Awesome. So one question here is if you could save 4 to 6 hours on the appeal prep process each week, where would you reinvest that time? Share in the chat. And while that's happening, Nikhil, if you want to start taking over on the screen share.
Can do. Give me a send request. Right, and I'll be getting that up as you guys answer the question. All righty. Is everyone able to see my screen here? All right. So excited to be showing you guys a live demo of LexMed and Chronicle in action. You guys may have seen Paul King before. He's my go-to demo case. But as you know, in Chronicle, you're able to see all of your client information. So Paul King here is a client where I have, my full list of documents out of the ERE. He's set up where I'm, using the Chronicle document monitoring system to essentially stay on top of what's going on. And so as long as you have, the SSN entered and we're able to see the documents, as soon as the ALJ decision comes in, Chronicle will notify you if you have new document notifications on, and you'll be able to see the ALJ decision here. So just as kind of a reference point, this is the ALJ decision. It's an unfavorable, and it has populated in Chronicle the day it showed up in the ERE. In order to request an AC brief, we now have this AC brief tab. You'll click it here, and this will let you see the list of possible ALJ decisions that you can request an audit from LexMed. There may be multiple in the case of any prior decisions, say it's a remanded case. You'll just be able to see all the decisions here. You can always click on this just to verify it's the right one. That will open in a new tab. And we always have the decision date here. In this one, it's not requested yet. So very simply, you'd click Request Audit. Once I click this button, it would kick off the process and send it over to LexMed. This process takes about 5 to 10 minutes to actually get the AI to read through and kind of do the analysis of this decision. And so with the power of movie magic, I might have pretended I clicked the button and get the final result so we don't have to wait here for 5 to 10 minutes. So if I refresh the page now, sorry, my internet's being a little bit slow. Just so you know, it does send you an email once it's complete, so you do not have to leave this page open. It will email you once it's done, and I'll have here now an audit and a brief that I'm able to view. So just kind of give you a quick rundown of what these buttons do before I hand over to Nick to actually explain what the AI did here. I'll have the audit, and I'll be able to scroll through here and see the full audit. And then I'll also have the brief. And just know with both of these, there are the options to download them as a PDF or Word document. And so when I click the download PDF button, that will start the download process and actually shoot me over a PDF in just a second. Sorry, it's being a little bit slow. My internet is slow because I'm using HD video, so that way you guys can see me in 4K. There we are. I get the AC brief now, and you have this full PDF or Word document that has all of the formatted information. So with that, I'll let Nick kind of explain, what's going on here and what the audit is, and then brief. And Nick, feel free to tell me to click around or scroll as needed.
Yeah. So someone was asking about the training and education and the sources. All of this is kind of I would imagine every Social Security attorney kind of has their arsenal of templates, case law, all the regulations and everything. It's essentially the things that I used throughout my appellate practice, from treatises from Westlaw to resources that I've picked up from CLE over the years. And we've essentially trained this model on all of the regulations. And the way that we've made it is so that it actually applies the applicable regulation based on date. It's not always 100% on that, but it's usually going to try to apply the correct regulation based on the date of the hearing, the date of the decision. And what we're doing essentially is throwing 300, like a checklist of 300 potential flags at an ALJ decision, and it's trained on all of the SSRs, CFRs, PALMs, HALIX, to see where things went wrong. And the way it works is it goes through the sequential process, step 1 through step 5, and it's looking for anything that could have gone wrong, from inconsistencies from the steps, looking at step 2. Hey, at step 2, they identified this severe impairment. Did they look at does the RFC actually reflect that impairment? They found carpal tunnel. Do they include manipulative limitations? Looking at the special SSRs like fibromyalgia, migraine headaches. Did they find headaches a severe impairment? Did they apply the relevant SSR? Did they include relevant environmental limitations from the headache? It's going to look for all those things, and then it's going to provide citations to all the regs. And then we heavily enforce citations to the decision to try to mitigate against hallucinations. But that's the way it really works. We're throwing a book of rules at it, at a decision, and trying to find everything that went wrong. And looking at those inconsistencies between the steps are a big part of the job in doing it. Right now, we are going to be working on, right now we're just using the decision, but we hope to be able to incorporate where we can use the transcript so we can validate vocational issues. But so far we've gotten really good feedback, and a lot of what we're going to be doing when we push out the new version is using that feedback to make it even better. And so even on the citations, so we can include hyperlinks to the decision and to the different regulations, so you're not having to even do that validation piece other than just click on the link to make sure it's there. But that's how we built it. And I essentially used, like I said earlier, I used this in my own practice over the years to do that critical testing to validate the accuracy. And honestly, if it was good enough for me, I thought it would be good enough for everybody else. So, yep.
Awesome. That's really, really great to hear, Nick. And, as we, if you've ever attended one of Nick's great talks at NOSCR, very important with all AI work is verify, verify, verify. So, obviously this is doing a very top-notch job of kind of going through everything, but always important before submitting anything to court, like the brief that is very succinct, is just read through it, make sure it looks right, gut check it against your own knowledge of the case, and the decision, there.
100%. And I should have added that. I should have used book to practice what I'm preaching. Um, so yes, it's validate, validate, validate. Like we cannot guarantee 100% accuracy. We can guarantee very high accuracy, based on the fact that we've exclusively trained this on Social Security law. It's something different than what you're going to get from trying to use ChatGPT or Claude or any of these more consumer-based models. And everything that we're doing here is we're ensuring that we're passing our information through secure servers with zero retention policy. So this isn't getting passed on to big tech, so that you can feel secure sending this without redacting everything. But yeah, going back to what Nikhil said, always validate anything that you get from this. Even though it's highly accurate, there are things that go awry. It sometimes you might notice sometimes it doesn't always pick up the correct hearing date, so it'll give you the wrong. It'll say 004P sometimes if the hearing was after January 6th, 2025. Little things like that you still need to validate and check, and those are things that we're going to hopefully be improving soon in our next release, so that we can mitigate even some of those issues. But yeah, validate, validate, validate.
Awesome. And so, as I kind of wrap up this demo, I'd love for you all to think about your current appeals process and where would this save your team the time, most time. So whether it's reviewing ALJ decisions, drafting briefs, cross-checking citations, take your pick, put it in the chat. But yeah, just think about how, in your current appeals process, where would this save your team the most time? And with that, I'll hand it back.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikhil. So while folks are typing in A, B, or C, I've got a question from Cheryl, and then I've also got a couple other questions that we asked Nikhil and Nick before this that we can go over. But if you have any questions as well, feel free to drop them into the chat. The first question that we've got is from Cheryl, which is, are all AI identifiers removed from the brief? Insight from an SSA employee, for example, or SSA scans all documents through an AI identifier.
Can you clarify? Is it just like a detector determine just if it's AI generated? Is that the question?
Yeah, they're detecting if something was written by AI, and then they're kind of discrediting it, versus if it was just one that I've written. So basically what I do is pretty much rewrite whatever one I've received
Got you.
to
No, I mean,
eliminate all those identifiers.
we use a specific styling that kind of, well, it honestly matches because we trained on a lot of what I've written. And so it's supposed to, no, I've not checked to see it look for like AI identifiers, but I've also know that a lot of these systems that, like, for instance, that universities are using for college students are not very accurate. So, I mean, I don't know how much validity I'd give to that, but yeah, I mean, you could always redraft it, but when I see a lot of the outputs, we've tried to craft it where it's as human-like as possible. But I wasn't aware that Social Security was doing that.
For sure. And just to add on to that a little bit, it is a bit of cat and mouse game where, to Nick's point, like universities obviously care about this a lot. Everyone's finding ways to get around the identifiers. Nothing is perfect right now. The thing I will always say is remove the EM dash. That's usually the give on AI models. But otherwise, as Nick mentioned, it's trained on his voice right now. So if you do want to sound like Nick Coleman, that's kind of what you're getting. But that's why the SSA should be, not always able to kind of figure it out. My guess, knowing how quickly the administration moves, they're probably just doing a quick scan to see are there any EM dashes or something like that.
Yeah, we did have a lot of emoji rocket ships and things like that in it, and then we had to remove those. And so that was like that was a dead giveaway. But I think we've got we've got away from that. But definitely something to consider for sure.
Awesome. There's a follow-up from Joe, which is if you download as a Word document as necessary, can the AC really identify it as AI generated? Aside from Nikhil's comment about removing M dashes. Any insights from either of you on that one?
The way they're detecting it isn't necessarily the outputted file, so it's not like the Word document has a marker in it that says this was generated by AI. The way these AI detectors usually work is they look at the chances that this exact sequence of words is from a model versus a human. And I know that sounds really fuzzy, but that's like, as you know, these LLMs are predictive models on what is the next word. And so if you're 100% on that prediction train, they kind of say, assume it's AI, but it could still be you. Like, this is where, once again, going back to the college student example, if you are writing like a essay that seems very obvious, it's more likely to be detected as AI because it's matching the pattern. So just kind of clarify, it has nothing to do with the Word document and editing it. It has to do with the exact words on the page, and that's why it's a little bit fuzzy on how they actually do that detection.
And to give you a little context of how I built this, I essentially trained it on hundreds of briefs that I've written at both the Appeals Council and federal court. So it's adopting tone, the way I do transitions, like everything. And so it's like Nikhil said, if you don't want it to sound like my drafting, then you can change it up. But it's very personalized because it's based on what the work that I've done. So there, like Nikhil said, it's looking for patterns based on like how other AI predicts this next word and the way these things are kind of built. So hopefully, because I've implemented all of my styling into it, it might mitigate the chances of it getting detected by the AI systems.
I guess one follow-up question for you, Nick, is there any place on the LexMed side for like custom instructions and whatnot for people to then adapt?
No, right now we've tried to make it as simple as possible to just drop the file and then you download it. We will be working on building custom solutions where we can work with law firms and kind of do like what I did, where we can get a large sampling of your past work and craft it so that it has your type of tone, the type of persuasive techniques that you use, how you cite things, like a difference like how you cite an exhibit, EX period and EXH, and how you do decision citations and all those kind of different things. Because everybody's kind of got their style and their branding on how they do things, right? And so we ultimately will be building it towards trying to make it more bespoke for law firms.
Thanks for that. And then another question is, does LexMed work for both appeals council and federal court levels?
So it's interesting. So the way I really built this originally was for federal court. It was a way for me to I take a lot of referrals from attorneys around the region, and I started using it for auditing to flag on all the issues that I'm looking for to expedite review. Um, but then I started looking at it. I was like, well, this could be an awesome tool for attorneys to draft AC briefs. So it really can be used for both. I mean, I've let appellate attorneys use this, and they found that it's picking up on issues that they missed because we all do it. We all have kind of our biases on like issues that we see or from the case originally, like you've made arguments to the ALJ and they completely ignored the issue. And then you miss out on a piece of low hanging fruit that would make it an easy remand. So I think there's value in both stages. Where I see, at least at the AC level, is because to draft a really good AC brief, the amount of time it takes, and then knowing that you often have a low chance of success, that kind of makes it a no-brainer to do something if it does it for you in 10 minutes, what essentially the same amount of work it would have taken you several hours to do. And then for the federal court kind of appellate review, it allows you to do what, was taking me 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes longer if I'm trying to narrow down on some very nuanced issues, and find that low hanging fruit to get the win. So ultimately, you get your client another bite at the apple to establish their case for benefits.
And a question from Carrie, I think she's looking for your opinion on this, Nick, of just, if the strength of the argument is good and the result is fair for the client, how much can they really use their AI detectors to influence a decision?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. What does it matter if it's AI or not? If it's a solid argument, they're going to say, "Oh, we're going to throw this out because it was generated by AI." I don't know. I mean, Social Security is using AI throughout their processes now, from DDS, less frequently with the ALJs. But yeah, I don't see why they would reject it, even if they did detect it. Maybe if they're trying to look, maybe to scan closer to see if an attorney's not validating their work so they can get a second view and, I don't know, sanction you or something. I don't know.
Are you aware of if there's any specific policies about AI?
Not currently.
Cool. Another question that we have is, can staff initiate the brief request or only attorneys?
Great question. So right now on the Chronicle side, staff can initiate the brief request. Anyone who has access to the platform will be able to click the button. Obviously, if you do have any needs where you want to, institute a policy where, because there is an extra fee for this, only certain people can, you will have to make it an internal policy. We don't have any kind of access controls right now. We can block certain users from requesting it. So it is something you'll need to educate your staff on if you don't want them clicking it. So just know that that is something you'll need to communicate with your team.
And another question is, does the system only audit the decision?
Yes, right now in its current form, it's just the decision. We eventually want to be able to incorporate the whole context of the ERE, but right now I just don't trust AI to be able to digest 1,000 page or plus, up to 5,000 pages to do it. So what we're doing, we're starting out with just the ALJ decision to really hit on those legal errors that really often, more than not, are going to have higher success than substantial evidence arguments. But our roadmap includes incorporating the transcript from the hearing, and then eventually incorporating using chronologies where a chronology can summarize 3,000 pages in 40 pages, where it pulls all the relevant medical information and then use that to help bolster your arguments.
Got it. And a follow-up to that would be, how can the system be accurate if it only has the decision?
What we do is we limit the scope of what it can actually flag errors on. What happens is honestly, a lot of the ALJ's medical summaries are pretty accurate. They just don't actually make a logical bridge, like you hear all the time, from what actually they're stating and what the conclusion is. And so what we're doing is just actually using their own words against them, and formulating arguments. You'll even see things where it'll pull on listing issues where it's pulling up trigger words to see if it's properly identified the appropriate listing. Like, for instance, I've had attorneys see where it's pulled ejection fraction that was referenced in the ALJ decision that was less than 30%, and make an argument on a cardiovascular listing. So really, you can do a lot with what's already provided, and in the way that we've built it, and trying into limiting its scope and excluding references from outside of the context of the decision, kind of keeps those guardrails in there to mitigate against hallucinations. Now, am I saying that it never happens? No, but we've enforced different rules and different strategies to mitigate against it. Hope that helps.
You mentioned earlier a little bit about this. Curious if you can expand more on how does this output compare to using a commercial solution like a ChatGPT or Claude directly?
Yeah, so I'll just use ChatGPT as an example. It's the consumer version is not able to digest the amount of documents that it makes you think it can. It has we call it context window. Think about it, your memory, only so much that it can handle. And what we're doing is we are loading up hundreds of pages of regulations and the ALJ decision. The consumer model can't digest all of that information. It might not tell you that it can't. It'll just say that it can and just give you an answer. Our system is made to be able to digest all of this as a backdrop foundation with all of that knowledge information and be able to give you accurate citations based on the dates. And that's not what you're going to get with Claude or ChatGPT because it's been trained on the whole internet. Here's one very nuanced issue, and we still run into our program, but we've mitigated it. It's going to want to give you the most like 004P. It was in place for 20 years. Well, it's trained on the whole internet. So oftentimes it's going to try to enforce 004P, even though it's no longer relevant. Or even the old treating source rule that, was rescinded in 2017. Those are just like some nuanced things that we've mitigated with our system, and that you're going to get a lot higher accuracy. And it's also trained on strategies that are very nuanced, that these models don't fully capture unless they are trained to pick up on them.
Got it. We're going to take a couple more questions before we then go over the offer as well as other details. And summarize just what Nikhil went over in the demo as well. So you mentioned this briefly earlier as well, but just how secure is the LexMed upload process?
So what we use zero retention policies through AWS. The information is stored locally for us. It's stored for our customers when they come on our platform, but when it goes to AWS, as soon as it's processed, it's deleted. So it's not. We use Anthropic for a lot of our models, and we also use Google, but we have zero retention policies so that information is not being sent to their servers, and so that it can be trained upon.
And the other thing to know on the Chronicle side is we are using the same security standards we use to secure your guys' data. So everything is encrypted at rest. And then also when it's sent over to LexMed, it is still encrypted using the same kind of military grade encryption. And we still adhere to our SOC 2 Type 2 security standards.
Awesome. What if someone wants to edit the brief before filing? What can they do in that situation?
So it's provided in PDF and docx format. And so if you download it in docx, you just take it to Word and you can put it on your heading, and you can change it. Say, hey, I hate Nick's tone and voice in this. I want to use my own. You can use your own on that. So yeah, you have full ability to edit it once it's downloaded.
Awesome. And then last question before we switch back to wrapping things up here. What if LexMed misses an important error?
That definitely can happen, but I think what you'll see is that oftentimes, more than not, it's picking up on issues that people miss. I mean, there are going to be nuanced things that it misses without the full context of the ERE. But ultimately, we feel like the benefit outweighs the downsides of potential issues that it'll miss. But again, it's always up to the attorney to do that validation piece to ensure that if you see an issue, if you see an issue that's not there, then you can include it. But the whole point of this is try to help attorneys pick up on issues where they might have blinders.
Awesome. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift gears and pass it back to Nikhil to kind of summarize what he went over in the demo, as well as the pilot offer for folks coming in from the Chronicle side. And then we'll do some final closing remarks from there. So Nikhil, can you see my screen right now?
No, it is not being shared, I think. Or
Uh,
okay, yeah, just do it again. It was in a different tab. There we are.
did that work?
Yeah, alrighty. So yeah, just to recap, what you need to do on the Chronicle side is open any case where there is an ALJ denial. Obviously, you can go from the dashboard on the hearing decisions tab and just kind of scan through and see which unfavorables you have. Navigate to the AC brief tab on that client page. Choose which ALJ decision. There should usually only be one, and click Request LexMed Brief, which will send it over to LexMed's zero retention servers. The process will take 5 to 10 minutes. It will email you once complete. You do not need to leave the page open, so if you want to come back a day later, you can, but it will be done in just a few minutes. Um, and then from there, you will have the option to view the audit, view the brief, download docx or PDF versions of it, and it will be stored in Chronicle as long as you are a subscriber to Chronicle.
Awesome. And then going over the offer.
Yeah, so as I we've mentioned through this, there are the key benefits of the amount of time saved here. 6 to 5 hours per appeal is what we've heard from many firms. And kind of the benefit here, always remember, is it's in Chronicle. It's a one-click process. You don't need to jump around any tools. And we are offering this service in conjunction with LexMed for $100 per case. So that is the amount you will be paying on a per decision basis. And because we are excited about this launch, if you are able to use at least one ALJ audit before December 1st, we are giving you a $100 credit. So that first brief will be free to use if you haven't used it already. So yeah, just click request LexMed brief to claim your credit by December 1st. And we have some great testimonials here of some things folks have said about the service.
Awesome. And I think Joe had a question, so I'm just going to cover it since we have a little bit of time before we then wrap up. I'm assuming this will be for Nick, or it might be for Nikhil. But if he has two unfavorables to upload them for AC review along with the first AC remand.
Sorry, so within the same case, I assume.
Right now, just upload the most recent ALJ decision. We want to be able to. I know it's important to have both of those, but right now we're just doing the one ALJ decision because that's just the way the model was built. But roadmap is to be able to include that type of information to give that additional context.
Got it. Great. With that, that's going to wrap up this session. So as we start going to closing remarks, thank you everybody for joining us. This was the first session in our new Advancing Technology and Disability Law series. Today we focused on appeals and our new LexMed integration, but we'll be doing more deep dive sessions soon. If you can share your feedback in terms of that feedback form in the Google form that was just put in the Zoom chat, that would be super helpful as we continue to build more programming here. We're actually going to be back on January 22nd of the new year to talk about what scaling a disability firm in 2026 looks like, what's working, what's not, and what's next. We're teaming up with the DL marketing folks as well as Super Insight there. You can feel free to register. It's going to be in the feedback form at the end of the feedback form if you want to link there. But in general as well, if you have never checked out Chronicle or LexMed, I've put links directly to both teams. So feel free to book a time with both respective teams, whichever one's best fit for you. As a reminder, you're going to get a full replay as well as summary in your inbox later with this in case you weren't able to join us at the top of the hour. Feel free to share this with your team or colleagues or any listservs that you're part of. And if you're a Chronicle customer, you can try this right now. If you open up a denied case, you can click request. You can click request LexMed brief, and then your $100 credit will automatically apply through December 1st. So big thanks to Nikhil and Nick for leading this. And thanks everybody for joining us and sharing your insights in the chat.